Who's coming with me?
It's a short shot. The source now. Taking over the game, but don't padlock. With a better roster, six is a plate of lobster. Let the biggest hate for revenge will never stop us. It's a short shot. The source now. Taking over the game, but don't padlock. With a better roster, six is a plate of lobster. Let the biggest hate for revenge will never stop us. Kill the cancer, you can call me a sick assassin. Cut the chains, you can call me LeBron James. Make a decision, but you never have me in derision. Change the vision, but more them that cause division. For real, never in submission like I need permission. Nigga steady telling lies like a politician. Nigga need to cool it down, but we the new edition. Yes. Yeah, the name is the source. Check the reinvention. For real, you think we not prepared for the fallout? Watch us stack this information.
Yo, we back. SUC in effect. Source Stuff Click is in the building. I'm your host, Yashub, here to drop that science and empirical data on you, brothers and sisters. You can see the title today, man. Shabbat Shalom, by the way. Phenotype does not matter. And we're going to prove that emphatically today. We're going to prove that phenotype does not matter. That's what we're going to prove, because a lot of y'all have what they call a binary oppositional model on how you look at human genetic relatedness or race, if you will, which is erroneous within itself. The system, the modern system of race and how we identify who's related to one another. Many people related off of skin, phenotype, and culture. So when we look at the genomic data and the DNA, we can clearly see that culture and skin tone could be completely the same, but genetically they're different, meaning they descend from a common ancestor. They don't descend from a most recent common ancestor. For example, everyone in the haplogroup E descends from a common male ancestor, but everybody in haplogroup E does not look the same. And you can go down, everybody in haplogroup D doesn't look the same. Haplogroup A, they don't look the same. So today we're going to drop the science on your head and we're going to give you the empirical data. Man, this 7 candlesticks up, it ain't a debate. It's a stick up. Y'all know the slogan, man. We back. We're never moving backwards. Here to put Israel on the atlas, man. You know how we get down. Here at the source. So click that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Show us some love. And we're going to continue to provide content for y'all. And today is December the 12th. Tonight at 7 p.m. CST, Central Standard Time, we do have a debate lined up for you guys. So the debate that's lined up tonight is going to be King Self, which is the middleweight champion of the source. He goes by the moniker, the Texas Rattlesnake, on his Stone Cold Steve Austin tip, you know what I'm saying? Versus Zion, the brother Zion, very intellectual cat, thought-provoking, and that brother is coming to bring the pain. So if you don't want to miss a great debate, tune in 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we're going to give you a classic bout here on the debate. Now, someone said what does haplogroup means? Haplogroup is basically a grouping of genetic similar people. That's basically what it means. Haplogroup A on the Y side, on the determined by the male Y chromosome, you have A, which is the Khoi Sun or Sun people, and some of the forest people of Africa. But today we're going to get into an interesting study that found haplogroup A in Britain, in white British males. So I've been excited. I'm excited for this, man, because this is what I teach, and this is what I embody. I embody that phenotypes don't matter. I've been saying this for years. And we have the empirical data to explicate that today. And I believe we do a very good job at explicating over here at the source. Yeah, brother, Royal Prince, shout out to Royal Prince. Shout out to the people coming in and showing love to the source. You know what we do. You know how we get down. You know how Yashu get down over here, man. We here to give y'all information. You know, sensationalism is for the other channel. Go to the other channels if you want sensationalism. But if you want to really learn and get educated and edified, come to the source. Come to Genesis 49 and subscribe, and we will feed you. You understand? Man should not live on bread alone. So we're going to give you this data. But anyway, let's get right into the meat and potatoes of this, man. Let's get right into it. I'm just letting y'all brothers come in and build. Check out the debate tonight. It's going to be a fire debate between my brother King Self and my brother Zion. They're going to hold it down here on the source, and more debates to come. But let's get into it. Phenotypes do not matter. Let me load up my my presentation for you brothers. I really wanted to get this out to y'all sooner, man, but you know, work, you know how that go. You know how that go. Y'all know how it go, man. So, you know, y'all should be able to see that stream. Let me verify before I go on. Phenotypes do not matter. It's today's topic, excuse me. And we're going to get into it and get busy. We're going to get busy, man. Hit that subscribe button. And hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube. And hit that like button, man. Show us some love. Show us some love, family. Because we doing it for y'all, man. So it got to be reciprocated. You know what I mean? Hit that like button for us. So we can reach that YouTube metric. All right, let's get right into it. Phenotypic. Well, let me go back to that. Phenotypes do not matter. Abolishing the social norm based on falsehood. Because we have a social norm that we think if you're dark skinned, woolly hair, wide nose, then you're related to everybody that looks that way, or you're African, or so on and so forth. I'm going to abolish and destroy that notion today. And it is a social norm because many of our people, or many of people in general, especially here in America, North America, we're just not educated in this area. You understand? We're not educated in genetics. We're not educated in population genetics and genetic relatedness, how we relate to other people that don't look like us. We're not educated in that area. So that's where we come in. So let's get straight to the first slide. First, you know how when you at the school and you open up a new chapter and you have the vocabulary. We're going to give you guys some new vocabulary words to learn. That's how I'm going to start this off. So the first vocabulary word you guys need to get into your memory banks is phenotypic plasticity, right? Phenotypic plasticity is defined as the property of organisms to produce distinct phenotypes in response to environmental variation. I want you to keep that in your mind because all humans possess this ability of phenotypic plasticity. This is why there's diversity in the way we look. All right, the source is genetics.org. You can find that definition there. Also want to break down recombination and gene conversion. You understand? Recombination and gene conversion produce a dizzying array of chromosomal combinations. And now for anybody saying, well, that's too deep, a collegiate, this is what happens when sperm and egg meets. You get 23 chromosomes from the male parent and then 23 chromosomes from the female parent, and they meet during recombination and they mix and the genes convert. This is what creates the child. This is what gives it its genotype and its phenotype. All right. So if we start with a set of heterozygous mean a variant or difference, right? Homo means the same, hetero means different, right? So heterozygous parents, the process of recombination swaps chunks of chromosomes in a chromosome pair, leading to a diverse chromosome sequence in gametes, i.e. the sperm and egg. Gene conversion adds diversity by swapping tiny sections of each chromosome. So you might have one parent group that may look a certain way, but once they get together, that male and that female can produce a child with a different set of genes or a different set of phenotypes. That's why I want you to learn recombination and gene conversion, because this happens every time sperm and egg meets. Gene conversions adds diversity by swapping tiny sections of each chromosome as small as a single heterozygous site. This process repeats itself in subsequent generations, which compounds diversity. This is why human variation is so diverse. This is why you have the Eskimo variation, the Malaysians, the Andamanese Islanders, the way the Europeans look. It's through this process known as recombination and gene conversion. And the source for that is replaced in Darwin by Nathaniel T. Jensen, which is a master geneticist. Let's keep it going. I know y'all probably blowing up the comments. I can't see the comments while I'm looking at my presentation. So keep that in mind. The next term I want you guys to get familiar with is penetrance. When studying the relationships between genotype and phenotype, it is important to examine the statistical occurrence of phenotypes in a group of known genotypes. Now, a known genotype will be E1B1A. That's a known genotype, right? E1B1B, that's a genotype, right? So, a haplotype, my bad, a haplotype. Those are haplotypes, and those haplotypes contain genotypes. In other words, given a group of known genotypes for one trait, how many identical genotypes show the related phenotype? You might be surprised to learn that for some traits, the phenotype might not occur as often as the genotype. So you might have the genes to produce a certain phenotype, but it won't occur all the time. Why? Because of recombination and gene conversion. So there was a popular photo being passed around Facebook of these two Nigerian couples and their child. It was a white baby. I should have put that in my presentation. People say that's impossible. That's impossible. That's completely possible if you understand genetics and you understand how things work on the molecular level. And that's what I'm bringing you today. Penetrance basically tells you that just because you have the genes doesn't mean it's going to express itself through the phenotype. So two black Nigerians can produce a white child. That's very plausible. Incomplete penetrance. In fact, large population studies are necessary for measuring penetrance. And studies of penetrance help us predict how likely it is that a trait will be evident in those who carry the underlying alleles. In general, when we know that the genotype is present, but the phenotype is not observable, an example of this, East Africans have the A111T gene, and some of them have the SLC24A5 gene. These are the genes that produce lighter skin, what Western Europeans have. But many of them are dark skinned. They have the genotypes, they have the genes, but it's not expressed through phenotype. So that's basically what this is saying with incomplete penetrance. It says the trait shows incomplete penetrance. Basically, anything that shows less than 100% penetrance is an example of incomplete penetrance. And you can get all of those sources from nature.com, phenotype, variability, penetrance, and expressivity. So let's deal with variability. Individuals with the same genotype can also show different degrees of the same phenotype. So you can be related, have the same genes, but have a different phenotype. Expressivity is the degree to which trait expression differs among individuals, right? And that's from the same source, nature.com. So basically, I gave you all of those definitions and vocabulary words for you to learn and keep in your memory bank, because you can't judge someone solely based on phenotype. That's the whole point of this presentation. It is possible to be a descendant of X group, but not socially identified as X at present. For example, we claim to be Israelites. Many of us claim to be Israelites. Many of us claim to be Moors, and what people do is say, you're not socially identified. Why does nobody call you Negroes from this group? But that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't explain genetics. That's just a social norm, right? And the social pressure and atmosphere that we live in. But when we do the research, we can connect the dots. So it is possible to be a descendant of an X group. And the group I'm saying now is the Jews, but not socially identified as X at the present. Social rules have a role to play in determining social identity, which may not have much to do with blood quanta or what's in your genes. Because everybody's so visual, they're basing everything off of how you look, which is your phenotype, right? So you can't judge someone based on phenotype. The source for that is Genetics of African Population and Health and Diseases by Mutasser Ibrahim, page number 41. Here's an example of phenotypic plasticity, right? You see E1B1A at the top column. You have a different variation. Nelson Mandela's E1B1A. You have this brother right here. Then you have a completely different phenotype here. Look at his skin tone. Look at his hair. Completely different. Same genes. Same descending from the same haplotype E1B1A, but there's a variation in variegated look. Then look at E1B1B. You got Adolf Hitler. You got Albert Einstein, right? And you got Bonaparte, all coming from E1B1B. And they're related to these dark-skinned people you see to the right. They're all related to them. They got the same genes. They got the same haplotypes. But if they have a different phenotypic variation, but they are the same people. They are genetically related. They descend from the same male common ancestor. Both of these groups, E1B1A, E1B1B, descend from EP2, which is E1B1, which is a male ancestor. They share the most recent common ancestor. They look different. This is why you cannot judge people solely based on how they look. You cannot. Haplogroup A, which many of the Khoisan and Sun tribe, the people that speak with the click, the famous click language, I forget what they call it. But the click language in Africa, those people, one of the oldest African tribes, look at this banner, haplogroup A1A. So you have many of the forest people in African tribes, right? And then to the right, you have a white British male that looks like a common European that has the same haplogroup A. What does this mean? This means he descends from the same male ancestor as everyone else in this banner. They share the same male ancestor, but they have a difference in phenotype. But they are genetically connected because they descend from the same male. Haplogroup C, another example. You know, many people from the Eskimo tribe are from the haplogroup, from this haplogroup C. Then we see a phenotypic plasticity as well. To the far right, you see someone from C6, I believe. Dark skin, different cranial structure, but from the same haplogroup C, meaning descending from the same recent common ancestor, male common ancestors, because we're dealing with the Y chromosome. Haplogroup D as well, phenotypic plasticity seen in haplogroup D, which is many of the Japanese, the people of Tibet, and also the Andamese or Andaman Islanders. As you can see to the far right, they all descend, DM174, from the same male ancestor. They share a common ancestor, meaning they are related genetically, although they don't look the same. This is why you can't judge people solely on how they look and their phenotypic range. You cannot, because you can look completely different from someone else from your same genetic marker. And you share the same genetic marker, you share the same group of people or you share the same group of ancestors that you descend from. All right, so let's get into it. Those who look European. It is indeed ironic that those with what can be called the stereotype African facial morphology and very dark skin are precisely those with the European haplogroup. And those groups is J. We have many people in Africa with the haplogroup J that look phenotypically African, have the same morphology, wide noses, big lips, cheekbones, everything. Dark skin, woolly, coarse hair, but have European haplogroups. It's J, I, T, and R. Those are all European. But they look like European. They look like Africans. This is why you can't judge people solely on how you look. This is why phenotype does not matter. That's why I named it that. So we're going to abolish that social norm. So you have many of these African groups that exhibit the quote-unquote African morphology and how quote-unquote what we call a typical African look, right? But they descend from these European haplogroups. They share a common ancestor. And we're going to get into one haplogroup here with the most common Western European haplogroup R1b. That's the most widespread Western European haplogroup. So it says, while others who phenotypically more resemble Europeans are often predominantly of the E haplogroup. If you're African American, most likely you're from the E haplogroup. And you have people like Nicolas Cage, the actor, he comes from the E haplogroup, just like you do. Adolf Hitler comes from the E haplogroup, just like you do. Albert Einstein comes from the E haplogroup, just like you. Bonaparte comes from the E haplogroup, just like majority of African Americans do. We share a common ancestor that gave us these E markers and these genetic tags. Even though we look completely different. These people look phenotypically, quote unquote, European, but we're related to them. So anybody saying, oh, how can black and white people be related? You're uneducated, but guess what? You're in luck. I'm here to educate you. The source is the genetics of African populations and health and diseases by Muntazer Ibrahim, page number 38. Very good book. I advise anyone to pick that book up, man. If you don't want the whole book, you can just purchase the chapter 1 and 2, which is where I derive most of those sources from. White skin with haplogroup E. Researchers have recently discovered that Napoleon Bonaparte's Y DNA belongs to haplogroup E1B1B1C1 or M34. And you can get that from geneticgenealogist.com. So we can clearly see this man looked phenotypically European, but he has what would be known as an African haplogroup. Albert Einstein, we mentioned earlier, he has the Jewish, what they call the Jewish E marker, right? The acclaimed theoretical physicist Albert Einstein is presumed to have belonged to Y haplogroup E Z830 based on the results from a patrilineal descendant of Naphtali Hertz Einstein. Albert Einstein's great-grandfather, approximately 20% of Ashkenazi Jews, belong to haplogroup E1B1B. So that's the funny thing about this Jewish marker. Oh, are you Jewish? Are you Jewish? 20% of these people belong to this marker. And then when you get to the Sephardim, they're like 30 to 40%. They belong to the E marker. We share a common ancestor with them. And the source is Wikipedia. And you can get that information under the E1B1B haplogroup. Nicolas Cage. The American actor and producer Nicolas Cage, born 1964, has been found to belong to haplogroup E1B1B or M84. His real name is Nicholas Kim Coppola, and his paternal and great-grandfather immigrated to the U.S. from the South Italian town of Bernalda in Basilicata. He is the nephew of the screenwriter, film director, and producer Francis Ford Coppola, who shares the same haplogroup. And I'm pretty sure he has the same phenotype as him. The typical European haplogroup, narrow nose, nasal passages, thin lips, you name it, right? The skin, the hair type. But he's related to us because we share a common ancestor. More reason why you cannot judge someone basically on or solely on phenotype. Because remember, E1B1B and E1B1A, we share the same paternal father, which is EP2, the paternal clade that we come from. Adolf Hitler belongs to haplogroup E, which is a African quote-unquote haplogroup, right? Ronnie de Corti, a geneticist from the Catholic University of Leuven in Belgium, tested relatives of Adolf Hitler and determined that the Fahir belonged to the haplogroup E1B1B. Ironically, this haplogroup thought to be at the origin of the Afro-Asiatic languages, which includes the Semitic languages and peoples that Hitler despised so much. And this is why I was trying to tell the other guy 2 days ago. My haplogroup is responsible for all the Afro-Asiatic languages. the Semitic language. We're responsible for that, my ancestors. That's what the research brings. But it was ironic because Hitler despised the quote-unquote Ashkenazi Jews at that time, and he descended from an E marker. And the source is Wikipedia, same source as the last one. E1B1B amongst the Ethiopians. Look, these are the people that they are related to. These Ethiopians. But they don't have the same phenotype. They have woolly hair. They have darker skin. Slightly different variation of the skull type. Right? But they descend from the same common ancestor, and they share the same genetic markers. It says, nevertheless, many lineages now found among the Ethiopians and Somalians appear to have come from the Fertile Crescent during the Neolithic period. Same source as Wikipedia. E1B1B white and black phenotype. EV22 is found primarily in western Ethiopia, northern Egypt, and in the southern Levant. In Europe, it is therefore associated with the Phoenicians and the Jews. The Phoenicians could have disseminated EV22 to Sicily, Sardinia, southern Spain, and the Maghreb, and the Jews to Greece and mainland Italy and Spain. Haplogroup E in the Near East. Haplogroup E, 1B, 1B, formerly known as E3B, represents the last major direct migration from Africa into Europe. It is believed to have first appeared in the Horn of Africa approximately 26,000 years ago and dispersed to North Africa and the Near East during the late Paleolithic and Mesolithic periods. EM78 and EZ827 originated respectively at 20,000 years and 24,000 years ago. E1B1B lineages are closely linked to the diffusion of Afro-Asiatic languages. So again, when you're dealing with who came up with these Afro-Asiatic languages and diffused them, that's our marker. That's our paternal marker. That's our people's doing. Not haplogroup J, haplogroup E is responsible for that. And Wikipedia, the same source. Haplogroup E, the Natufians in the Near East as well. Lazarus and others, 2016, tested the first ancient DNA samples from the Mesolithic Natufian culture in Israel, possibly the world's oldest sedentary community, and found that the male individuals belong either to haplogroup CT or E1B1, which is the father of E1B1A and E1B1B, by the way, including two E1B1B1B2 samples. These are to date the oldest, listen to this, known E1B1 individuals. So the oldest E1B1B individuals is found in Israel. Because, that's, never mind, that's another argument. I'm not going to get into that now. I'm going to keep it on topic. Phenotypes don't matter, because the reason why I'm bringing all this information is because a lot of our people think, okay, white people are the Middle East, white people are Europe, and black people are everything Africa. You know what I'm saying? But no, our genetic ancestors were in the Levant, were in Israel, were in Europe, and we spread all over the place and disseminated. So again, just looking at someone and blaming some and actually judging someone based solely on their phenotype is erroneous. You're in error. It's uneducated. But it's fine. That's why you came here, to get educated. So let's keep reading. It says, these are to date the oldest known E1B1 individuals. The same groups show up in pre-pottery Neolithic B Jordan, accompanied by new haplogroups H2 and T. Besides, E1B1B was not found in Neolithic Iran or Anatolia, and only showed up twice among the hundreds of Neolithic European samples that have been tested. This evidence suggests that at the end of the last glaciation, 12,000 years ago, the E1B1B men were present in the Levant, but not in other parts of the Near East. There's evidence that the Natufians already cultivated cereals like rye before the Neolithic period. Cereal farming may therefore trace its roots literally to the E1B1B tribes of the Mesolithic Levant. And we talked about that the other day. The Neolithic Revolution is because our ancestors, we brought forth farming, pastoralism, and that spearheaded civilization. Connections from Africa and the Levant, same source, Wikipedia. Marieke van der Lustret says in 2018, he tested the DNA of 715,000-year-old modern humans from the Tafarak cave in northeastern Morocco. And all of the 6 males belong to haplogroup EM78. Autosomally, they could have been modeled as 2/3 Natufi and 1/3 Sub-Saharan African, West African, confirming the close genetic link between late Paleolithic North Africans and Mesolithic South Levantines. The same place where he said our people weren't at, we have a genetic connection to those people. So irrespective to how you think someone looks, our ancestor was there. Haplogroup E from the Fertile Crescent. Nowadays, the highest genetic diversity of haplogroup E1B1B is observed in Northeast Africa, especially in Ethiopia and Somalia, which also have the monopoly of older and rare branches like M281, V6, or V92. This suggests that E1B1B may indeed have appeared in East Africa, then expanded north until the Levant. Nevertheless, many lineages now found among Ethiopians and Somalians appear to have come from the Fertile Crescent during the Neolithic period. So they started in the Fertile Crescent and then migrated down into East Africa. This concludes some E1B1B subclades like V22, 12,000 years old, and V32, 10,000 years old, but also undeniably Near Eastern lineages like T1A, CTS2214, and J1L136. So again, Wikipedia crushing the phenotype myth. 95% of the skeletal remains. So we can actually gauge how these Natufians looked by looking at the skeletal remains. Between 10 to 5,000 years ago, the Levant population was tropically adapted hominids, especially in relation to the Quavzaic skull hominids, which is the name of the cave. 95% of the QS population were SSA, that means Sub-Saharan African. 8 at 85%, and skull 4 at 71%. So, meaning phenotypically, their skull and bone structures look Negroid or Sub-Saharan African. That's against what you think. That's against what you've been taught. You've been taught that, oh, this area has always been white, and you dated with white people. That's not true at all. Matter of fact, white skin didn't become a thing until like 77,000 years ago, according to the secular scientists. Let's keep going. Oh, and the source for that is Where the First Europeans Pale or Dark Skin by Utman Dunn, Dodio Institute, Chicago, published March 5th, 2014 by Clyde Winters. Okay, EM2 amongst known Jewish descendants. Now, these people probably look what? Phenotypically, quote-unquote, European. But you have Mandel, which is an Ashkenazi from Hungary. He had EM2, right? EM2 is E1B1A. Many of you African Americans come from the clade E1B1A. But he probably looks like a phenotypic European, what they're calling European. James Lau was born in 1858 and died in 1900s in the United States, and he was considered a Native American, but he was a Jew. And he has EM2, which is E1B1A. Muhammad Ali al-Harazi, born in 1945 in Yemen, he has EM2. So again, you just can't judge somebody solely on how they look. And that information is from FamilyTreeDNA.com, public, the Jewish E3B Project. And all these individuals had to have have confirmed descendants of Jews in order to go into the registry. EM96 amongst known Jewish descendants. Marcus Simler from 1845 to 1890s. He lived in Poland. He had EM96. Probably looked like a phenotypically, a typical European, quote unquote. But he has what we call an African marker. Joseph Bonefield, 1875 to 1941 in Ukraine, had EM96. Udell Green had EM96. Heinrich Karl Erich von from Austria had EM96. All these people, like I said, most likely phenotypically looked like what we call a European, but they had African genetic markers. Again, this is why phenotypes do not matter. Now let's move on to haplogroup R. We're about halfway through it, right? Haplogroup R is found within Africa. It says the haplogroup R is also found in notable frequencies in some other populations of Saharans, namely the Nilo-Saharan speaking Tibu, and also in a Sudanese sample of the Fulani. The most likely scenario is that when the bearers of R1 came into Africa, they got spread into a region in or adjacent to the Sahara and may have been spread around during the time of its greatest inhabitability, the period of the so-called Green Sahara. And the source for that is the Genetics of African Populations and Health and Diseases by Muntazer Ibrahim, page number 38. Now, haplogroup R, what's interesting about this is it comes from a European clade. But the haplogroup R in Africa, they have a sub-Saharan African look. Haplogroup R found in Africa. The inference of the geographic location in which specific lineage is diversified is often based upon the distribution of closely related haplogroups. For instance, if all lineages descending from a specific individual are found in the same geographic area, it is commonly inferred that the most recent common ancestor of those lineages also lived in the same geographic area. In some cases, gene flow may explain why not all derived lineages are present in the proposal area or diversification. For instance, the RV88 haplogroup is almost completely restricted to Africa. Yet closely related lineages in Africa and in haplogroup R are extremely rare in sub-Saharan Africa because the phylogenetic structure of haplogroup R is characterized by several consecutive basal splitting events leading to the tip branches that are currently observed only outside of Africa. It is extremely unlikely that haplogroup R diversified in Africa. So this haplogroup R diversified, they're saying outside of Africa. Why? Because it's a European haplogroup. You understand? So they had to migrate within Africa and leave their descendants there. But if you looked at these descendants and judge them on their phenotypes, they look like other Africans. They have the typical African morphology or look, if you will. And the source is improved phylogenetic resolution in rapid diversification of Y chromosome haplogroup KM526 in Southeast Asia, European Journal of Human Genetics, and Tatiana Carafet and others are the ones responsible for the article published March 23rd, 2015. Oh, we skipped one. Hold on. Again, if you guys are chatting in the comments with questions, I cannot see the comments. Keep in mind, I can't see the comments while engaged in reading the PowerPoint. Now, if you just came in, the topic is phenotypes do not matter, and I'm explicating and showing you why they don't matter. So again, on your screen, you can see these haplogroup R individuals, the Chadic speakers, right? Or the people from Lake Chad. European haplogroups with African phenotypes. Chadic speakers have a European clade. It is indeed ironic that those with what can be called stereotype African facial morphology and very dark skin are precisely those with the European haplogroup, while others who phenotypically more resemble Europeans are often predominantly of the E haplogroup. And we went over that earlier, and I read this earlier. Like I said, you got Albert Einstein looking like a typical European, Adolf Hitler, and so many more, Nicolas Cage, but they have an African haplogroup. But with this group R, you have the Chadic speakers. They have a European haplogroup, but look African. More proof why you can't judge people solely on how they look. And the source is Genetics of African Population and Health and Diseases by Muntazer Ibrahim, page number 38. So let's deal with the phylogeographic data. Analysis of Y chromosome variation provides even stronger evidence for a pronounced genetic peculiarity of Chadic speakers. Found that Cruciani found that the NRY haplotype R1B1A or RVA8 with an estimated mutation age of 7,000 to 5,000 BCE reaches frequencies as high as 90% in Chadic speaking groups, while remaining rare in neighboring non-Chadic populations. According to the phylogeographic considerations, this haplogroup is likely to have originated outside of Africa. So these people originated outside of Africa, and R1b being the main clade in Europe, it's likely deduced that they come directly from those Europeans into Africa. Their descendants don't look like those Europeans, but they are connected genetically. They share a common ancestor, common male ancestor. So this goes against what the social norm is, because you'll see a black person and see a white person next to each other and say, there's no way those two can be related. But you don't know that because you ain't tested their DNA. You don't know who they descend from. Same thing with these people from Lake Chad and the Chadic speaking groups. They look sub-Saharan African. But when you look at their DNA, it's clear they descend from Europeans. And another thing, I didn't add this into this presentation. I wish I did. A lot of you African Americans are R1b. Y'all have a European male paternal clade, but you don't look it. You look like the typical, what we call African American or African or whatever. You have that typical look, but you are not related to the ones with haplogroup E over here. So keep that in mind. This is why phenotypes don't matter. And this is from the book Global Prehistory of Human Migration by Emmanuel Ness, page number 64. Haplogroup R originated in Asia. The pattern leads us to hypothesize a Southeastern Asian origin for PP295 and a later expansion of the ancestor of subhaplogroups R and Q into the mainland Asia. Improved phylogenetic resolution and rapid diversification of Y chromosome haplogroup K. And this is coming from European Journal of Human Genetics by Tatiana Carterfet, March 23rd, 2015. We read from this earlier. R1b, again, like I said earlier, is a Western European clade. Haplogroup R1b is the current dominant lineage in Western Europe, and it's the same source. So you have those people, and they have the typical European look. You know what I'm saying? The same kind of look Nicolas Cage had and all these other, you know what I'm saying, quote-unquote, white Europeans have. But they have relatives in Africa that look sub-Saharan African. So that just destroys, just because you look the same means you are the same. That destroys that notion altogether. Now let's move on to the Yorkshire example. We describe the presence of a haplogroup A1 chromosome in an indigenous British male. Comparison with African examples suggests a Western African origin. 7 out of 18 men, listen to this now, 7 out of 18 men carrying the same rare East Yorkshire surname as the original male also carries haplogroup A1 chromosomes. And documentary research resolves them into 2 genealogies with most recent common ancestors living in Yorkshire in the late 18th century. So these white males got their DNA tested, and it came back haplogroup A1, which is a African haplogroup, right? But they did not have the typical African morphology or look. And this is from the Africans in Yorkshire, the deepest rooted clade of the Y phylogeny within an English genealogy. European Journal of Human Genetics, and it was published March 7, 2007. So again, we're just giving more and more proof that phenotypes do not matter. These Europeans from Yorkshire look typically European like any other British white male, but their DNA says different. They descend from haplogroup A. Proof phenotype doesn't matter. The British male carrying the haplogroup A1 chromosome knew of no familial African connection, and he displays a typical European appearance. So he looked European. He didn't even know, I didn't know I had an African connection, but his DNA says he does. Meaning he descends from a common male ancestor and shares a common male ancestor with the Khoisan tribe in Africa and the Forest people in Africa. Haplogroup A1 white British male. The haplogroup A1 bearing male bears a locative surname, which we refer to here as R, derived from in East Yorkshire village. Only 121 people carried this name in 1998, and it still has a strong East Yorkshire focus. We recruited 18 apparently unrelated men carrying this name or a close variant spelling carried by 50 individuals and typed a set of 11 binary markers and 17 YSTRs, supplemented with the binary marker M31, allowing us to identify haplogroup A1. So they're giving the steps on how this happened. And this is the same source. And all these males, look, again, have the typical European appearance, but they have an African haplogroup or haplotype. Haplogroup A in Great Britain, the remarkable Y chromosome present in the R surnames provides the first genetic evidence of a long-lived African presence within Britain. It represents a cautionary tale for those who would predict population of origin from a Y haplogroup and emphasizes the complex nature of the history of human migration. So this is proof that they descend from these quote-unquote Africans, but they look completely different, which goes back to the premise. Phenotypes do not matter. Again, the same thing. Observance of the African haplotypes in phenotypic Europeans. Haplogroup A has been observed as A1 in European men in England. As A3B2, it has been observed with low frequency in Asia Minor, the Middle East, and some Mediterranean islands among the Aegean Turks, Sardinians, Palestinians, Jordanians, Yemenites, and Omanis. And this is, I believe that presence is there because A and B are Hamites, and the Hamites were known to be in those regions. But that's a whole nother bag. We're going to get into that. It's not today. We're going to get into it, though. Stay tuned in. Hit that like button, by the way, and subscribe to the channel. Without testing for any subclade, haplogroup A has been observed in a sample of Greeks from Mytilene on the Aegean island of Lesotho and samples of Portuguese from the southern Portugal, central Portugal, and Madeira. And I guarantee you that if you saw these men, they would have what they would call a European phenotype and facial morphology and look. You would never guess it. It says where the sources were the first Europeans paler dark skin by Clyde Winters, published March 5th, 2014. Now let's move on to the Limba, because we know the Limba are famous for having J haplogroups, sharing the same haplogroup as these Ashkenazi Jews and these Lebanese and Arabs of Palestine, right? But it says Limba do not resemble typical Middle Eastern J1 or J2 individuals. The Jewish connection has been corroborated by the genetic studies. For example, the Limba population has been shown to be genetically linked to the Jewish Kohenins, one of the tribes of Israel. The Kohenins are a priest class within the Hebrews. More than 50% of the Limba males, specific Y chromosomes, are of the West Asian descent characteristics of Arabs and Jews. In addition, a diagnostic fragment of DNA known as the Cohen model haplotype is shared among Arabs, Jews, and the Limba. In fact, this segment of the genetic material is detected in the Limba at frequencies higher than in the Jewish population. These Limba have higher frequencies, and that haplogroup shows more within the males of the Limba than it does the damn Jews that's claiming it's a Jewish marker. Another strike against phenotypes, judging people solely on phenotypes. Phenotypes do not matter because the Limba look like any other sub-Saharan African or any typical sub-Saharan African. But their Y chromosome and their DNA shows that they descend from the same forefathers that these Ashkenazi Jews and Arabs and Lebanese people descend from. And the source for that is Ancestral DNA, Human Origins and Migration by Rain J. Herrera and Ralph Garcia Bertrand, page number 438 and 439. Again, I wanted to give you some visuals. So to the left, you got the Limba, and to the right, you have the Hasidic or Ashkenazi Jews, and they both are genetically the same, even though they look phenotypically different. This is that phenotypic plasticity I was telling you guys about in the beginning. I wanted you to get that in your memory bank. Certain genotypes can make different phenotypes. That's what phenotypic plasticity is. And you're seeing it right before your eyes today here on The Source. Hit that like button, by the way, and subscribe to the channel. To the right, you have the Hasidic Jews. To the left, you have the Limba. They both share a common male ancestor. That's why they have J markers. That's why they come from the same haplogroup. That means they share the same common ancestors. Now we're dealing with the Y chromosome. We're not dealing with mitochondrial. We're dealing with the Y chromosome. So we're dealing with Y chromosome haplogroups, and they descend from haplogroup J. Haplogroup T is Near Eastern, which we also see in Africa as well. Subsequent genetic research has demonstrated elevated levels of Y chromosome of the T type of Near Eastern ancestry, and we see that in Africa as well, amongst, I believe, the Limba as well. An excellent example of phenotypic range. Haplogroup DM174 has frequencies in the Andaman Negritos, the northern Tibeto-Burman population, and the Ainu of Japan, and also appears at low frequencies in other East and Southeast Asian and Central Asian populations. Most of the populations with haplogroup D have a very dark skin color, including the Andamanese, some of the Tibeto-Burman, and the Khmer people. The Ainu people may have changed to pale skin to absorb more ultraviolet light in the high latitude region. So you have a dark skin variation with the same haplogroup, meaning they descend from the same male ancestors. And you have a lighter skin variation when we find in Japan with Ainu, but they all are related to each other irrespective of their phenotype. And the sources, Languages, Genes in Northwestern China and Adjacent Regions by Dan Shu, page number 23 and 24. So genetic affinity versus phenotypic range. Malaysian Negritos are Austroasiatic speakers inhabiting northern peninsular Malaysia. They practice the egalitarian and patrilineal descent system. Physically, they have a relative small body, dark skin, distinct facial morphology, and wiry hair. Malaysian Negritos are often grouped with other Negrito communities, and several studies have provided genetic evidence that Andaman Islanders, Philippine Negritos, and Malaysian Negritos show some genetic affinity in similar phenotypes. These similarities have led to some genetic evidence indicating the Negrito populations of SEA and Oceania are derived from the original ancient migrations as opposed to the Austronesians, the islands. Same source there. Now, let's get into these Andamanese people. To the right, you can see them. They have the DM174 haplogroup, or haplotype. And this is how they look. This is an example on how they look. Now, let's get the same haplogroup, the Andaman Islanders, the Ainu people of Japan. This is how they look. They're related to the people I just showed you, directly related to these people, have the same genetic markers, and look completely different. One looks sub-Saharan African, the other one looks East Asian. This is proof phenotype does not matter. And then here's the people from Tibet. They all these groups, the Andaman Islanders, the Japanese, the Ainu from Japan, and the people from Tibet, all have the same genetic ancestry, but look different. That's the lesson I've been trying to give you guys this whole time, and we're almost finished. Some Negritos differ genetically. Even amongst the Negritos, they may look the same, but they differ. It says other genetic studies indicate that Negrito populations are closer to their non-Negrito communities. There's likely no strict binary between the populations, but there are some trends across the islands. Mitochondrial DNA and NRY DNA data has shown that East Indonesian populations are a dual Papuan and Asian descent. So some of them are Papuan, which would probably be D, and some of them are Asian, which would probably be O. Completely separate haplogroups, but they look the same. That's why you can't judge people on how they look. They're all classified as Negritos. Ancestral DNA, and for you people who don't know, O is one of the most dominant haplogroups amongst the Chinese. And we know how the typical Chinese look. They're pretty much homogeneous on a large scale. The epicantic eye folds, the way their eyes look, Yao Mingish. They have that look. So you have Negritos with that same haplogroup, and they look completely different. Some even look sub-Saharan African, Australoid, or whatever, or what have you. Again, this is why phenotypes don't matter. The phenotypic range in Europe. The archaeological and craniometric evidence indicates that the pre-Indo-European people were probably highly pigmented. There have been numerous Negroid skeletons found in Europe, according to Bull and Vallos. Diop discussed the Negroes of Europe and civilization of barbarism, page number 25 to 68. Also, W. E. Du Bois, the world in Africa, noted that there was once a uninterrupted belt of Negro culture from Central Europe to Southern Africa, page 88. And a lot of you Afrocentrics will call these people pseudo, but they've been telling the truth this whole time. Why? Because all of these different haplogroups and people groups have the ability to do phenotypic plasticity, as long as they're not inbred. When you inbreed, like many of the Western Europeans, you lose your genetic diversity. You lose that ability to do the phenotypic plasticity. And that's why most of them have pretty much lost a lot of their diversity, but that's a whole nother topic. Were the first Europeans pale or dark skin? By Clyde Winters, March 5th, 2014. We read from this source numerous of times during this presentation. Let's keep going. Haplogroup A, same source. And if anybody wondering where look at the left of the screen. You see the mouse? This is the source. Right underneath the word source. A lot of people watch my presentation like, where is he getting this from? Bro, it's on the page, and I read and highlight it at the end of, reading the slide. Come on, give it the program, y'all. Hit that like button. Haplogroup A is largely restricted to parts of Africa, though a handful of cases have been reported in Europe and Western Asia. The clade achieves its highest modern frequencies in the Bushman hunter-gatherer populations of Southern Africa, followed closely by many Nilotic groups in Eastern Africa. However, haplogroup A's oldest subclades are exclusively found in Central Northwest Africa, where it consequently, Y chromosomal atom is believed to have originated about 140,000 years ago. The clade has also been observed at notable frequencies in certain populations in Ethiopia, as well as some pygmy groups in Central Africa. Same source. Again, you can see the source to the left right there. Clyde Winters. Dark-skinned Europeans. The Labana population belong to Y chromosome C6. The Y haplogroup C6 finding in Mesolithic Iberia supports the early introduction of anatomically modern humans across the Straits of Gibraltar, not Eastern Eurasia. The ancestral alleles from Labana and Luxembourg dark-skinned Europeans make it clear early Europeans were not pale-skinned, as Kleisov 2014 alleges. This genetic evidence for dark pigmented ancient Europeans was supported by the Negro skeletons associated with European sites. Again, irrespective of phenotype, these data show everything I showed you today. It shows the genealogical connections of substantial numbers of males from all regions of Africa, irrespective of phenotype. You can share the same genealogy and common ancestors with a person, and he could look completely different than you. That was the whole entire point of this presentation. All 50 slides were tailored for that. We gave you examples for haplogroup A. We showed you the British males had haplogroup A, even though haplogroup A is a known African marker, and many of the bush people, the pygmies, and many of the Sun tribe, the Khoisan, and the people that speak with the click language have that, and they have African morphology, but they're related to these British males and these people in Western Asia and these people in the Middle East that have the A group. We showed you with the haplogroup D, the Andamanese Islanders look sub-Saharan African, but they're related and have the same genetic markers of the Ainu of Japan. We showed you with haplogroup E, how variegated haplogroup E is. Adolf Hitler's from haplogroup E. Nicolas Cage is from haplogroup E. Albert Einstein's from haplogroup E. Bonaparte's from haplogroup E. All look like typical white Europeans, but they're related to us. Many of the African Americans are haplogroup E. Many of the West Africans are haplogroup E. You understand? So again, you cannot judge solely on phenotype. No. Now, I'm going to get to the comments. I know you guys are probably lighting up the comment board right now. So let's get to it. Let's see what y'all talking about. Let's see what y'all talking about. I hope y'all learned something. This is facts we did with thorough breakdowns, not vague interpretations. You, brother, are a long-standing watcher of this channel because you know the slogan. We did with thorough breakdowns, not vague interpretation. That's a fact. That's a fact. And then we got somebody that's being pseudoscientific in the back chat. He's pretty much blew up the back chat. He's got like 20 comments. Go find something else to do with your time. Let me see what Paul G is saying. I remember hearing something about the original European being dark skinned, which would attribute to the African migration. Yeah, they were. Original Europeans were dark skinned. We covered that. Let's see. So R1 is from outside of Africa. R1 is outside of Africa. They believe, I read it in the while I was doing my presentation, they believe it originated somewhere in Asia. That's where they believe that it. So with E1B1 B Isaac, that's very hard to answer. It could have been on up. It could have been somewhere EM96. I don't know. That's something that I'm trying to figure out and break down as I build this scientific model in case to coincide the biblical narrative. How many Black Americans have taken a haplogroup test? I don't know the exact number, original one, but a sizable amount. They have enough information to make sample sizes and infer the population. That's how we know a lot of people are. A lot of people that have are African Americans have R1B. Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, I'm trying to put a lot into this. All right, so I'm going through the comments right now. See what y'all got saying. I see some trolls that don't understand anything. Now, Warrior Lord, you said genes are dominant. No, that's not true. Incomplete penetrance shows you that. And you can have incomplete dominance where even if it was dominant, it doesn't mean you're going to pass it to the subsequent populations to come after. I appreciate all the love being shown in the comments, man. Even the trolls, man. I appreciate the view. Hit that like button. Sometimes you can see in their hair and faces. Jarena Star, expound on what you're talking about. What are your haplo results, Yashub? I am from EU290. I descend from EU290. That's my haplotype, brother. 23andMe said I share a common ancestor with Ramses III, and we share a paternal ancestor that comes from Western Asia. That's the results they gave me. Let's see. Sons of Jacob, OKC. Oh, man, you was on your troll stuff hard. I ain't going to even say your name. So the Limbar of Japhet descent, since they have a larger genetic J material. Yes. You know, for my model, anyone that has any of the F lineages would be Japhet. Anyone from A and B would be Ham. And DE, some of CT would be Shem. Because you know CT made DE and NCF, if I remember correctly. Yeah, man. I try to put my all into this, man. These other people just naysayers. The brother said, what is EM? EM2 is E1B1A. That's what EM is. If you're still there, brother, that's what EM is. EM2 is E1B1A. I do believe Jacob was from the haplogroup E1. Yeah. Of course, I believe Shem was E. You know what I'm saying? That's why a lot of people get mad when we make these videos. But the main topic was phenotype doesn't matter. And The notion behind that is you can't judge people solely on phenotypes. Because again, a lot of y'all look at Adolf Hitler and say, "Oh well, he has to have a European clade." No, he doesn't. He has an African haplogroup E clade. That's what he has. That's how he looks. And only idiocy. We're trying to combat idiocy. But I love this one biblical principle in the book of Corinthians. It says, "If any man be ignorant, let him be." I'm not here to convince anybody. I'm here to just provide the information, and those that are willing to learn and want to learn it, they can. And if you don't, you can troll and continue to do the weird internet stuff you guys continue to do. I'll continue to cultivate information and present it to you guys and do it at a high level and perform at a high level. You understand? So again, that principle right there is amazing. I live by that. If any man be ignorant, let him be. Sons of Jacob said, "I hear people say Israel, all Negro, black, and white people can't be Esau. But where did the white man come from? If we all come from Noah, he was a so-called black man." Exactly. That's called phenotypic plasticity. All Israel can't be black. That makes no sense. All Shem ain't black. Because we share genetic markers with people that are white. I proved that today. We share genetic markers with people who are white. Albert Einstein, Adolf Hitler, Nicolas Cage. That's why it's titled Phenotypes Do Not Matter. So all you people that jumped out the cage, out the window, "Oh, he's silly. Why would he say phenotype don't matter?" You prove that you're uneducated. But that's fine. I'm here to educate you, man. This is what I'm here for. So if you want to be educated, subscribe to the channel. Dorvell said the Limba, yes, the Limba are from haplogroup J. They share the same Y chromosome as these Ashkenazi Jews and these Lebanese people and Palestinians. You understand? And they look completely different. That's why I keep saying phenotype does not matter. You can't judge people solely on how they look. And if you think that way, you're at this point, if you watch this whole presentation and you still think that way, you're ignorant. And I go by the principle, if any man be ignorant, let him be. I'm not here to convince y'all. What haplogroup are the Solomon Islanders? It probably is some kind of East Asian haplogroup. I haven't looked into that. It might be D. It might be DM174. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can go on Wikipedia right now and look it up, what the Solomon Islanders are. Or they could be O or M. It just depends. It just depends, man. Are they classified as Negritos? Negritos have O, they have D, they have other East Asian infusion and introgression within them. Again, that's why, look, the fact that I showed the Andamanese Islanders, that should have been, light bulb should have clicked off in your head. These people look sub-Saharan African, but they're related to the Ainu in Japan. And Ainu in Japan look typical East Asian, light skin, epicantic eye fold. They look like any other, the Ghost of Tsushima. You know what I'm saying? They look like him, 51 Ronin. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, to get the imagery popping in your head. But they related to the Andamanese Islanders. You understand? So anybody trolling, you keep trolling. You understand? And you don't prove you're an Israelite by how you look. That makes no damn sense. You prove an Israelite, or you form that hypothesis, rather, through genealogical records and genealogy. Not by how someone's look, how you look. It's 2020, man. It's not the 1800s no more. Craniology is dead. You know what I'm saying? Got anything else popping in the comments, man? Yeah, it looked like y'all was very tentative to the whole thing because there wasn't that many comments. Let's see. So somebody that really wanted some exam. You know how you had that. Some of y'all some of you males act like females, and y'all act like we were in a relationship and I broke up with y'all because you guys get in the comments and troll so much. You want my attention so bad. You want my attention so bad. You're not going to get it. What else we got here? Who should I use if I was to do a haplogroup test, 23andMe or African Ancestry? What do you recommend? I haven't did African Ancestry. The two kits I used were 23andMe and Ancestry.com. And we sent our information over to GEDmatch. So those are the three. African Ancestry. I recommend 23andMe because they will give you your Y paternal marker. Ancestry.com will just give you an ancestry estimate and do an autosomal test on you. But if you want to know your Y chromosome, definitely 23andMe. You know what I mean? And I believe they're relatively inexpensive. You know, I think less than $100 to get the kit. If you just get the DNA kit, not the health kit, you know, you get the health kit, it's a little expensive, and they'll tell you if you have any pre-existing conditions or whatnot. Not all LIMBA have J1. That's true. Some of them are EM2. You're right. Not all LIMBA have the J1 haplogroup. So those who run to claim LIMBA need to realize those J1 LIMBA are Japhetic, but you would have LIMBA of Shemitic descent. Yes, you do have LIMBA that are EM2 or have other E markers. They're not all J, but the majority of them are of the haplogroup J. So the Bantu are E1B1. Yes. Majority of the descendants of Africa are EM2, and that's because EP2 came in and, you know, spread their children, and then their children brought in farming and agriculture, and we had iron metallurgy, which put us above on the technological ranks. We were above haplogroup A and B because they were more forest and foraging people and hunter-gatherers. They did not have the technology we had. They didn't have that iron technology. We had iron spears and iron weapons. Oh, we knocked them off the map, man. We reduced them greatly, and we took over Africa. You understand? We took over Africa. A lot of people don't understand that. The Bantu expansion is us taking over Africa. That happened at an estimated 3,000 years ago. Let's see. Not all LIMBA. Y'all read that one. They say haplo M for Solomon Islanders. Is that the paternal or maternal? If it's paternal, then that's East Asian. Have you uploaded your raw DNA to GEDmatch? Yes, I uploaded my raw DNA to GEDmatch. I have not seen the results yet, which I got to look into that, see why it's taking so long. Second Exodus says, I am LIMBA. Do you know your Y paternal haplogroup? You understand? Let us know what's your Y paternal haplogroup, because you could be LIMBA but have EM2, not J. Royal Prince said, great information, man. I try to keep up the scholarship, man, on this channel. And I brought nothing but sources. I brought geneticists. Nathaniel T. Jeanson is a master geneticist. Mutasser Ibrahim is a master geneticist. All these are master geneticists. That's the information I gave y'all today. And you still got trolls in the back. That's why, again, if any man be ignorant, let him be. But I live by the principle also in Sirach. Be not ignorant of anything small or great. One of the greatest principles that I read in my life. Because a lot of these religious groups and Afrocentric groups teach you to be ignorant. You E1B1A, so you EM2, brother. You EM2, you're not J. When you refer to Bantu, is that Congo, etc.? Well, Bantu, I believe, is the language group they gave them. That these people were speaking. Dorvale, I am LIMBA, but I do not have the J1 haplogroup. Yeah, again, all of LIMBA are not J1, you know. All of them are not J1. Many of them are EM2. Yeah, man. So again, phenotypic. The point of this, phenotypes don't matter. Just to reiterate for anybody that's just jumping on, you can't judge people. You can't judge a person's genealogy solely on their phenotype. You need more information. Need more information. You just can't be say, oh, this guy looks East Asian, so he must be Japanese, or this guy looks African, so he must come from Africa. Oh, he could be a Andaman Islander, man. You know what I'm saying? It could be a Negrito. You don't know. So again, you can't judge that. Plumantis 2069 says, yeah, Limba, not all of them, but they do have E1B1A and B. Exactly, E1B1B. You know what I'm saying? And then you got, another teaching that's disturbing. You got some Israelites that'll say E1B1A is Israel and E1B1B is Ham. That makes no sense. Because again, Ham denotes that you have a common ancestor, a common male ancestor that will be Ham. E1B1A, E1B1B shares the same common male ancestor. So they both can't have different male lineages. They have the same male lineage, which we teach over here that they are Shemites. You understand? They can't be both. They can't be Shem and Ham. That makes no sense. Hey, Dorval, that saying, I do not agree with that saying, but I understand the notion behind it, right? You can't judge a book by its cover, right? The outer appearance. But I heard a comedian say that's one of the dumbest sayings, because you literally, when you buy a book, you judge it by what is stated on the cover. If I want to get a book on biology, I'm going to find a book that says biology on the cover. But I get the notion. The notion makes sense. I've always found that funny. Plumantis 2069 says, tell it, brother, that makes absolutely no sense. Yeah, it makes no sense. You can't have E1B1B can't be Ham and E1B1A be Shem. They got to be one or the other. You know what I'm saying? You directly contradicting yourself when you say that. Because Ham is a male progenitor, you know what I'm saying? And Shem is a male progenitor. They can only have one male progenitor, in the biblical model. You can't have both. E1B1A, E1B1B descend from EP2. They share the same male progenitor, the same male ancestor. They come from the same population. From our model, we have A and B as Ham, right? Which were many of the early Nilotes. The early Nilotes, the people living around the Nile, a lot of them consisted of a haplogroup A32B, I believe. And then I have DE being Shem. And then I have all of the F lineages being Japhet, which includes G through I, man. That includes O, which is the Chinese, Second Exodus says Deuteronomy 23 has rules about Israelites who are mixed. Anything mixed after 3 or 4 generations are no longer ethnic Israelites. I will have to disagree with you there, because when we read the Bible and we read how genealogy is tracked, it's tracked through your paternal side. It's tracked to your father. For example, we know who Ishmaelites are because they descend from Ishmael. We know who Israelites are because they descend from Israel. We know who Edomites are because they descend from Edom or Esau. Everything, it's descended upon males. It deals with a paternal line. So when you say mix, I don't know what you're saying there. That's modern thinking. Dorville, used book might be dirty on the cover, but the knowledge be on the cover. Yeah, okay, I can dig it. I can dig it. Sons of Jacob says, oh, a so-called black woman asks what I'm mixed with today. I'm like, what? Anyone who knows me, I don't look mixed. Then I look like a so-called black. I just don't look African. I'm Shem, not Ham. But we got to be careful with that phraseology as well, because looking African, like anyone could look African, quote unquote. And that's what I was trying to, present today. Like you have the Chadic speakers around Lake Chad, and those people look African. They have the African morphology, phenotypic range, and everything, but they descend from the same common ancestors as modern Western Europeans. You understand? I'm guessing your name is Jaeger. My bad. It said a mixture of C and M. I'm gonna have to read over this thoroughly because it was so much I didn't understand if I what I was reading. It's okay, brother, man. All you gotta do is look for the NRY. Look for the letters NRY DNA. and you'll figure it out. Have you heard about the Philippines saying they were Dan? No, I have not heard of that. I haven't. I think many of them are. I think the Philippines might have D haplogroups. Be careful of the Esau white man crowd. They might come for you. They are haplogroup E. Yeah, Esau's haplogroup E, man. You know what I'm saying? And many of those people have white skin. It doesn't matter if they have white skin, you know. It's clearly plausible. We see it. We can see it with the Ainu people and the Andamanese Islanders. We can see it with the Chadic speakers of Africa, looking sub-Saharan African, but they are related to Western Europeans. Majority of Western Europeans are R1b. So are the Chadic speakers of sub-Saharan Africa. They look completely different, but they are the same genetically. The Limba J haplogroup. They have the J haplogroup, but they look sub-Saharan African. And they are directly related to those Ashkenazi Jews and Lebanese and Palestinians. There's no way around it. That's why it's titled Phenotype Does Not Matter for all you trolls that just read the title. Oh, what do you mean Phenotype doesn't matter? That's how I know you're not scientific. And one of the people claim to be scientific. You're not scientific, man. You're not in the know. You should know this. I was quoting master geneticists. You understand? You understand, man? Hey, man, good show, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to go too long because I want this to be rewatchable. You understand? So, share the link, man, after I'm done. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the Source Debate League. We got a debate tonight. It's December the 12th, and we will deliver. My brother King Self, the middleweight champion of the Source Debate League, also known by going as the moniker, the Texas Rattlesnake, man. The Stone Cold Steve Austin of the Source is going against Zion, which he sounds like he's an intellectual giant. So that's going to be a battle, you know what I'm saying? And the topic is going to be, is Haile Selassie a descendant of Solomon? I'm excited. I want to see it myself. I will be hosting tonight, you understand? And judges are coming. We got our judges, you know what I'm saying? And a PowerPoint is a must. Both sides understand you got to have a PowerPoint and you got to have citations. This is not a rhetoric league. This is a league where you have to have merit. So tune in tonight. King Self versus Zion. The topic is Haile Selassie, a descendant of Solomon. Yeah, man. Royal Prince, come through. Dorvale, come through. Show us some love. Second Exodus, I appreciate the love, brother. I try, man. I try. I do all this studying and, for a reason. Try to bring out the up-to-date information. Oh, yeah, the time of the debate tonight is 7 p.m. Central Standard Time is when we're going to do it. If you're in the East Coast, I believe we're 1 hour ahead. So it'll be 8 p.m. in the East Coast. White is Tzak. It doesn't mean white people. It refers to class and social status. Do I have permission to upload to my channel? I will give credit to you if you agree. Of course, brother, you can upload this to your channel. Go right ahead, brother. Let's get this information out there. Hey, shalom, brother Dez, man. All right, man. If there's no more questions, if you got any questions, let me know. I'm getting ready to close this out. I want this to be rewatchable, so I don't want this to extend to 4 hours. With the J match, it would show that you are a closer proximity in your DNA to the Limba. Yeah, because many of the Limba are EM2, E1B1A. We are related to the Limba, just not the ones with J markers. Plumantis says, I don't. If you saw the Two-Door Prophet video, I don't think the Limba ever saw a white Jew, let alone thinking themselves as white people. Yeah, they might not think of themselves as white people. That's fine. It's not, but genetically and genealogically, they're the same as those Ashkenazis. What was your question, Dorvale? I thought I read your question. Brother. Oh, here it is. Sorry, bro. The Limba oral tradition say they come from white people. Now it makes sense of the J1 haplo group. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. Those that have the J marker. That makes sense. Genealogically, they are connected to those people because they share the marker. Appreciate it. Yeah, like and share this, man. Get this out of here. This brother says there's no audio. No, I can see the sound waves on my icon. There is audio, brother. Oh, he said okay, it's back. Maybe it was on your end, maybe my end. But anyway, we're gonna close out. Hey, any closing questions, man? Anybody got any questions on the lesson that was brought out today? Phenotypes don't matter. Again, the reason why I stated that is because many people judge people solely on phenotype. You judge who they are and what their ancestors and who they come from based on phenotypes, which is erroneous. The limba alone show that's erroneous. The limbas share a common ancestry with the Ashkenazi, Palestinians, and Lebanese. Let's see. Yeah, man. Like and share the video. Like and share the video. All right, man. I'm gonna close it out, man. Shalom to everybody, man. Appreciate it, brother. I try. I'm trying to keep the scholarship up there, man. But we're about an hour and a half in, and I don't want this thing to go further than we have gone because I want this to be rewatchable, shareable. You know, we get on here and we go on for 4 hours. That's cool, but then people that our people really don't have no attention. That their attention span ain't that big, so we don't want to overdo it. But anyway, everybody tuned in. I hope you learned something, gained something, gleaned something from it. And all the trolls that came in, I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? Like DJ Khaled said, I appreciate you because you gave us some views, man. You helped us work on the metrics. You know what I'm saying? So Shabbat Shalom to everybody that came through and showed support. I mean, you got some scientific data and research, and I hope you keep everything that I taught you today in your memory banks, man. Don't make the same mistakes. A lot of people make that mistake judging people's ancestry based on how they look. You can't do that. Can't do that. You're in violation. All right, man. We out. SUC. Tune in tonight, December 12th, 7 p.m. CST. We got a debate going down with the middleweight champion King Self versus Zion. We will be back, family. Shalom.